Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending our webinar. This is Khalid Saleh, the CEO of Invest. We have a webinar that is jam-packed with information for you today. We're going to be covering a topic that is near and dear to the heart of many e-commerce websites. We are going to be talking about product pages. Product pages, if you know how to design them, they will mean a tremendous amount of profits, revenue for your website. If you do not know how to design them, if you make mistakes, it will have a direct also impact on your bottom line. As usual, join the conversation by tweeting at us at Invest. You can use the hashtag InvestCRO. We love to have these webinars as interactive as possible, so please either use Twitter, you can use the chat function. We have our team over here monitoring, answering your questions. Sometimes they'll throw some questions at me based on your comments and your feedback. With me also today is my co-founder, managing partner, our client success manager at Invest. She runs all of our conversion optimization projects, 400 plus conversion optimization projects, thousands upon thousands of A/B and multivariate tests. If you worked with Invest, you know Ayat really well. Ayat?
Hi everyone, I'm excited about today's webinar. We have a really interesting case study to share with you, so I'm looking forward to that.
Very good. Thank you, Ayat. And Ayat will be jumping in, like I mentioned, and chiming in, helping me with information. Actually, she's going to be demonstrating the case study because it was one of her partners, one of the clients that she worked with early on. So before I jump in and we start going through the actual case study, what we wanted to talk about is a little bit about the methodology of how do you design an A/B test or a multivariate test. Now, we've gone through this in the past 10 years until we've landed at the point that we are at. It took us now almost 35 years of combined experience until we got to the point that we're at. And there's lots of studying, lots of analysis, lots of research that goes into the careful building of an A/B or a multivariate test. Now, if you read our book, Conversion Optimization, you can buy it from Amazon. If you read our book, you know that we follow a methodology. We named it the Conversion Framework. Now, the Conversion Framework guides how visitors interact with your website, whether you're able to persuade them to convert or whether they decide to leave. Let me run quickly through the different elements of the Conversion Framework over here. One of the first elements is the visitor persona. So something that you really don't have a full control over. However, you can build your website, you can have your copy and design to accommodate the different personas. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the different personas a little later in the webinar. But there are different types of people. I'm very impulsive. I buy very quickly. I regret my buying decision very quickly. There are people who are very caring. They care about emotions. They want to know the number of customers who have dealt with you. The way you deal with a caring type persona is tremendously different than the way you deal with an impulsive type persona or an aggressive type persona or somebody who is logical or methodical. Also, you have to be able to demonstrate trust and confidence. If I don't trust you, I will never buy from you, period. So how do I send the right signals to every visitor on my website that I am a trustworthy website? And I need to do that through my copy, through my design, through different presentation, through continuity, value proposition. The buying stages, another thing that you want to keep in mind. Not every visitor who lands on your website is ready to buy. Some are ready in that action stage. Others are still researching or evaluating alternatives. There's also FUDs, fears, uncertainties, and doubts. We all have them. I'm at the cart page. I've added an item to my cart, but I'm not sure. Should I move forward or shouldn't I? Am I getting a good deal or not? Is this place going to be secure? When are the items going to arrive? We just placed an order for some copies of our book from Amazon.com.uk. And it's sort of interesting because we expected them to arrive in 5 days, but now it's taking them a month. That's a FUD. And we thought it was dealt with. Plus, in addition, we're dealing with Amazon. However, 3 weeks later, we don't have the books. So definitely is going to be something that we're going to keep in mind next time we think about ordering from the Amazon UK store. Incentives. How do you incentivize visitors to actually act on the purchase decision? And by incentives, we don't mean discounts. People always think discounts. No, we mean the urgency. Making a visitor act right now as opposed to saying, you know what, I'll bookmark it, I'll come back to it later. Finally, engagement. You need to be able to engage your visitors through different ways. Social engagement is only a tiny sliver of that, but having an engaging website, think Zappos, that's an engaging website. So how do you engage your visitors? How do you build a community around your website? When you're able to create and accommodate for all these 6 different factors of the conversion framework, then you'll be able to persuade your visitors to really convert. Then you'll hit the double-digit rates. Now, 6 elements of the conversion framework translate into 250 sub-elements. And this is, like I mentioned, all the experiments that you see, all the different tests that you see over here, they seem sometimes simple. However, the analysis that goes behind them, the amount of study and research, that's really what assures us that in most of the tests that we conduct, we're able to achieve higher increases in conversion rates. Now, what you need to think about that every website page has a standard CRO map, conversion rate optimization map, which drives the way the page is analyzed. There is a prioritization for the different elements on a particular page. Should I be dealing with FUDs first, or should I be dealing with trust, or should I be dealing with personas? So every website page or type of page. So e-commerce websites have a different map than a home page or a checkout page or a cart page. With that, let's jump in, give you an audience question, give you a little bit of time to think about. Audience question: which framework element has a higher priority, as in stronger impact on the product pages? And we have the team over here watching and monitoring the answers. We'll give you guys about 15 seconds to answer. And Ayat, if you want to read some of the answers as they start coming in, give us some of the names as well, some of our attendees.
So it seems like there's a wide range of answers that are coming in. We have an answer from Mike. He says that he believes that trust is one of the major elements on product pages. Julie's coming in and she's saying no, she thinks it's more personas that have a stronger priority or impact on the product pages. A wide range. Some people are saying personas, some people are saying incentives actually. We have actually 3 answers that are saying incentives. So it's a mix between all the different elements actually.
Now, is there a right answer to this question, Ayat?
No, not necessarily. But again, because we know that there is a map for product pages, because we've had so much experience optimizing product pages, we know that some elements have a stronger impact than others. So, the answer I would give you is that there is a priority, but at the same time, all of the elements do play a role in the product pages in some way, shape, or form.
Very good. So here is this is actually a simplified chart compared to what the team uses, but this shows you on one hand the different pages of an e-commerce website, and this is very specific to e-commerce website. However, there's different map for a lead gen type website, content type website, a membership type website. However, you can use this if you're an e-commerce website as a guideline, because this applies generally to all different types of e-commerce websites. However, you have to customize it to meet your website specific needs. If you're a lead gen type website or membership type website, you need to start thinking about how do the different elements of the conversion framework start playing into your website. So, for example, you see, if you look at the product pages and they are in the orange color over here, and look at the different elements of the conversion framework, and we've included some of the sub-elements. So, for example, you see that trust comes really high, close to 70% impact on a product page conversion rates. Under trust, and those are some sub-elements of trust, you see over here continuity and value proposition. They have an impact on the conversion from a product page all the way to an order confirmation. And by the way, whenever we talk about a conversion, we're talking about a full conversion, somebody placing an order with the website. You notice that buying stages have a high impact, and you notice that also personas have a high impact, engagement a little less, incentives play a role. So this is how the different elements of the conversion framework play into the conversion from a product page into a cart page. Now, what's important for us, because we've been doing conversion optimization for the past 10 years, we've conducted thousands and thousands of A/B tests. Every experiment that we've conducted, there is a hypothesis, and you will see that a little later in the experiment that we're going to run through. There's a hypothesis behind it. they're a relation between the experiment and the different conversion framework elements that we are tracking. Thus, we start compiling a large data bank. We start saying that, you know what, on product pages, it's always buying stages. When we deal with buying stages, when we address them, we see the highest impact on product pages. So naturally, when our teams start addressing buying stages, when they start optimizing a product page, they start thinking about buying stages. Then they move on to the next element, FUDs and trust. They also keep in mind personas because those are all closely related to one another. So, you want to keep this marketing insights in mind, and those marketing insights are key elements, things that we've really taken us a while to think about and crystallize. So if you get something out of the webinars, the marketing insights are tremendously valuable. A single element on a page may require more than one conversion framework element in order to fully optimize it. However, one conversion framework element remains dominant. Because sometimes you get into theoretical discussions. Well, is it personas? No, it's FUDs. No, it's trust. Ultimately, they all probably impact a single element. However, you need to find or need to think, you need to decide with your team on the most dominant element that impacts that single element. Now, audience question, again, your chance to interact with us. The audience question, and we want to hear some answers from you. Tweet us. Is the add to cart button on the product pages impacted by more than one conversion framework elements? Give us your answers. Again, you can use the chat function on the GoToWebinar. You can follow us on Twitter @Invesp. Use the hashtag InvespCRO, and we'll give you guys 10-15 seconds. Ayat, if you want to jump in over here with some of the answers. Right.
I think a lot of people are saying that possibly in terms of the add to cart button, it is impacted by more than one conversion framework element. Steve is saying by FUDs and trust. I have other answers that say maybe by personas and trust. So there's a mix of different answers that are coming in, actually.
Now, let me jump in on this one, because we've had quite a bit of debates about the add to cart and what elements impact the add to cart. Do personas impact the add to cart? I think so. But then we have different types of personas. We have the impulsive persona, and we have the caring type persona, the methodical or logical persona, and the aggressive. And I think they're all impacted by the add to cart. So it's almost like all your visitor population is impacted by the add to cart. So not a single type of persona, because you don't want to talk about personas in general, but rather the type of persona. So sometimes I feel that personas are less impactful on the add to cart. Maybe there's more dominant factors such as FUDs or trust. Ayat, your thoughts on this? And I know we debated this at the office, for long times.
The thing with the add to cart is that it's not just the actual button. There's the location of it. There's the way it looks. There's the way the content or what's written on the add to cart button. All of those are factors that impact the add to cart button. So when we're talking about which framework element impacts the add to cart, we have to also recognize what are we exactly talking about when we're discussing the add to cart. Is it, what is it exactly about that element that we're discussing at that point in time?
Very good. Excellent. Again, there is a lot of thought that goes into this. So I see that we have about 22 minutes left, and we're trying to cut down the time of these webinars. We used to do them at an hour. We're trying to cut them down to 35 minutes. We know everybody is very busy, so we're trying to jam tremendous amount of information to a short time. So I'm going to run through some of the slides. However, if you want to get more information, you can either contact us later on if you have any particular question, or you can read our blog. A recording of this webinar is going to be available on our YouTube channel. The slides are going to be available on SlideShare. So, Ayat, if you want to walk us through this is just a small analysis that we've done in terms of the product page by element and its impact relation map to the conversion framework.
Exactly. So as I mentioned before, the product elements are, more complex than just saying this is the element as it comes. So there's, different factors that play into it, whether it's, the location of it, the way that it looks and feels. So this is just giving you a really quick overview. We have a number of different elements listed here, but they do not constitute as all of the elements on the product page. We have the title, the description, the options, the price amount, the price placement, the CTA design, CTA placement, the SKU number. These are all different elements on the product page. And each one of those we've, highlighted, okay, well, what elements actually impact this particular product page element, and which one is the priority? Which one do we look at first when we are discussing this particular element? So for instance, the description, well, we know that the description, because it's mainly made up of content, personas do play a very big role in the description. But of course, they're not the only role that or only conversion framework element that we look at.
Like I said, this is a small analysis on product pages. So what you need to do, the slides are going to be available in SlideShare. If you're attending the webinar, we're going to be sending you a link, and then we're going to make them naturally available on SlideShare. You need to look at your product pages and drill down on all the elements that you have for your product pages, and start thinking about the relation. And as you are testing, you're not just randomly testing. You put 4 designers, 5 designers in a room, you give them a product page, and they come up with 100 different designs, and you don't know which one will have the most impact on your bottom line. The reality of it, when you do this type of analysis, your optimization process is guided by science and by research, as opposed to just randomly guessing. I always say conversion optimization has no relation to randomly guessing or praying that the changes that you make will have an impact on your bottom line. Now, we are going to jump into the case study. One of the largest online furniture retailers, they've been operating since 1913, so they've been operating for over 100 years.
Much before the web was available.
Definitely. So 102 years, well-established, making huge strides online, and they've invested quite a bit in their online presence. Ayat, could take us through the case study.
So some of the problems we faced with this furniture retailer on their product pages in particular was a low overall site conversion of less than 1%. The product pages seemed to be a bottleneck. 1.7% of visitors were actually clicking on the add to cart. That's a very small number. And the average order value on the site was $2,200. So we keep that in mind, because that plays into a role of why why customers are necessarily hesitating on the product pages. And another interesting thing, the client drives most of its visitors to engage with the chat feature. Again, because it is an expensive purchase, they do want to make sure that the customers or the visitors to the site are feeling comfortable, so they have this chat feature, which they have available to their customers.
Now, when we talk about chat feature, that means you have to have support staff. Support staff means that you have to invest, pay salaries, you reduce your profits. So the client, when he came to us, said, you know what, let's figure out a way to have more conversions online, people completing the order. I understand that my average order value is at $2,200, way too high, and people debate whether they're going to buy from an online store, and especially furniture. And I have to be honest, I told him, I don't see myself buying furniture online. I'm really worried. I mean, I go to a store, I sit on the couch, and I'm still not even sure. How about ordering it online? However, we worked with the client and we saw some pretty amazing results. So the hypothesis over here.
So providing easier access to major elements such as the price, the add to cart, the selection options will increase conversion rate by reducing visitor anxieties and confusion and addressing the needs of the impulsive persona. So we're looking at 2 major conversion framework elements here. We want to increase the conversion rate by reducing visitor anxieties. That's addressing the fears, uncertainties, and doubts that customers may have, as well as addressing the needs of the impulsive persona.
So again, 2 different elements at play over here. FUDs are at play, the impulsive persona are at play, and ultimately our goal is to increase conversion rates. And the control.
So here is the control, and what you see here are a couple of different interesting elements. Number 1 is we see that the add to cart button is below the fold. The second element that is interesting on the product page that caught our attention immediately was the fact that there is one selection option, whereas the actual products have more selection options. So for instance, if I am purchasing a bed, I may want to purchase a certain size, so a queen size bed, but I also want to, select the espresso finish, for instance, on this particular bed. So the finish options were below the fold as well. So those are 2 interesting things. Another thing that I'd want to point out that isn't necessarily highlighted is the SKU number. We also looked at that. We want to make sure that we use the real estate, the prime real estate on the page very carefully, because again, we want to pack that area with the information that the customer is going to need immediately. Variation 1, all we did here was we moved the add to cart above the fold, and we also included all of the selection options readily available in close proximity, in that product area. So those are the two major changes that we had. And if you guys notice as well, we did remove the SKU number from this prime real estate area and placed it elsewhere on the page. For variation 2, we just simply moved the add to cart. We did not change anything else. We did not remove the SKU number. We did not change the product options. All we did was we moved the add to cart above the fold.
Very good. So side by side look, you see the original design at 0, and you see design 1 and design 2, and a audience question, which design generated more sales? I like when you look at 1 and 2, you can see how the add to cart is almost at the same level in the two new designs above the fold, while in design 0, which is the original design, it's below the fold. You can see how the product options appear in design 1. They're pushing the add to cart maybe a tad bit lower than design number 2. Audience question again, and we have a poll over here. So go ahead and vote which design generated the more sales. You already know that one of those two designs increased conversions tremendously. I mean, that's the title of the webinar. But which design increased conversion rates?
So we have actually very much a mix between the different responses that I'm seeing. It seems like, right now, more than 60% are saying variation 2 generated more sales. And we have around 40% saying that it's variation 1. It's changing a little bit now and then, but it's consistent that the majority of our listeners think that variation 2, won.
Let's take a look, and we'll close the poll. We'll give you guys another couple of seconds. And we are closing, and 63% of you think that design 2 increased conversion rates. What do you think, Ayat?
All right, let's see what the answer is.
Okay, guys, you're ready. Here we go. And it's actually, sorry for those of you who answered the 63%. It's design 1, 108% increase in website conversion rates. Tremendous impact. And it's design 1. 108% increase in conversion rates for product pages. That is direct impact on the bottom line. That is a tremendous increase in revenue for that retailer. Think if you're making $4 or $5 million annual revenue, and you're able to increase your conversion rates from product pages all the way to the order confirmation by 108%. Just the amount, investment this test required, and the bottom line impact it had. Now, as you see over here, two main changes that this design had: moving the add to cart above the fold, and moving also the product options above the fold, giving the user or the visitor a chance to select right there in one place, cleaning up the area by moving the SKU down to the bottom. It's still available on the page. However, we did not want to crowd it in the action box. Here are the results. Variation 1, with 108% uplift, 99.2 confidence. That is an amazing also confidence rate. We love to see these confidence rates. By the way, design 2, variation 2, also gave us a really nice conversion rate uplift, 54%. So those of you guys, the 63%, it's not too bad. However, the confidence level is 75%. We don't like 75%. Sometimes we might be forced to accept it. 75% confidence level is still better than a 50% confidence level. But we usually aim at 85%. At a minimum, 95% is what's acceptable to us. And as you see, that's what design 1 did. So an audience question: is the product page the most important page in the conversion funnel? We'll throw it to our audience, give you guys 10 seconds to think about this, and go ahead and answer. 10 seconds, and we will see what answers are coming in.
Looks like a lot of people are saying yes. We have right now 1, 2, 3, 4 people saying yes. We have also a number of people that don't think that the product page is the most important page in the conversion funnel. Some people think it's the checkout process. So we have probably, I would say, 7 people right now are saying no. Again, more answers are coming in for yes. But it seems that, there's a split between our listeners between yes and no. The majority seems, I don't know, it seems 50-50 to me.
Yeah, we need to get you guys a bit more interactive with us. Answer. This is how we really gain more from these webinars. This is how you gain more. We have about 40, 50 people who are very interactive, and some of you guys are just sort of sitting and watching. So we want to see you a lot more interactive. We will get to answer this question a little bit. We'll actually show you actual data to support the answer to this question. We'll come back to it. And now let's dig deeper into the marketing insights. When a visitor has made his way all the way to the product pages, you have a greater opportunity for persuasion. You want to persuade that visitor to convert. At this point, at the product page, the site visitor is more invested in the purchase process, and you're able to deliver more information compared to other pages. I think the ability to deliver more information is very key over here. Product pages give you tremendous amount of space. People are expecting to find a lot more information. It's a lot different than a home page where, it's just the entrance, it's the storefront. Well, you can't really deliver tremendous amount of information, while at the product page, okay, I know exactly what you want. You're looking for the specific type of mic or TV screen or maybe a table or a piece of furniture. I'm going to give you everything that you want to know to make that purchase decision.
So although I wouldn't say that the product pages are the most important page in the conversion funnel, what we would say is that the product pages do allow you a lot more flexibility, and a customer that has made his way, or a visitor that has made his way to the product page, is a lot more invested in the purchase process. So trying to persuade them on that page, you have a lot more opportunity, basically.
Very good. Excellent. Let's look at some data to answer this question. So, conversion rate correlation factor. Lots of times people conduct an A/B test and they see that, according to the A/B test, my conversion rates, this A/B test produced 200, 300% uplift in conversions, which means I should see an increase by 200 or 300% in my bottom line revenue. And then they start looking at their revenue and they do not see that increase in revenue. Well, because there is something that many conversion optimization companies skip telling you. And maybe some of them are not even aware of this. They just sort of scratch their head trying to figure out why they're not seeing the same increase in online revenue as they see in the conversion rate. Because there is something called the conversion rate correlation factor. Not every page an increases conversion from that page to the order confirmation will have the same proportional direct impact on your bottom line. So for example, a home page, if you increase the conversion rate from home page to the order confirmation, you will probably see anywhere between 30 to 40% impact on your bottom line of the overall increase in conversion rates. Category pages, you see higher impact. Product pages, you're getting close to the 100%. You're not 100%. So with that particular case study, 108%, our client did not see 108% increase in revenue, but he did see something close enough, close to the 90% increase in his bottom line. Now look at the checkout, the cart and the checkouts. Now you start seeing you're getting to the 95 and 100% increase in conversion rates. So that tells us the pages that have the most impact on your bottom line, according to the conversion rate correlation factor, and this is, again, we're looking at one factor, the pages that have the most impact start with the checkout, cart, product pages, and they decrease as you come to a page that every visitor enters from, and maybe some website visitors don't funnel through. Some key terms over here, I'll throw it to Ayat.
Some key terms that you should be aware of are the product page effectiveness rate, or the PPER. It's a percentage of visitors who click on add to cart from the product page. The PPER clicks on the add to cart, it's basically what it equals is the clicks on the add to cart divided by the visitors to the product pages. Now, the reason why we had mentioned that the average order value of this particular customer of ours was at $2,200 is that the PPER is actually impacted by the average order value. The higher the average order value, the lower the product page effectiveness rate. Now, a higher product page effectiveness rate can be achieved by reducing customer anxieties and FUDs.
And this is a very key metric. I'm always amazed when we talk to customer e-commerce websites and we take a look at the different conversion goals and funnels they have set up for their website, and they only have 3 or 4 different funnels. And I tell them, you need to be tracking a lot more data about your website. You need to be able to tell how visitors are interacting with your website. And if you're gonna, I mean, I know everybody sets up the funnel for the checkout process. That sort of is a standard. Typically, we set up anywhere between 15 to 25 different funnels to really understand how visitors are navigating around the website. And take one thing, you tell your team to do it or do it yourself, set up a funnel from your product pages to the cart page. Track, again, how many people are clicking on the add to cart. We're not talking about a full conversion. We're just talking about a small battle. Are my product pages able to persuade visitors to click on the add to cart? If I'm not able to get them to click on the add to cart, I'm not going to be able to get them to convert because they don't have items in their cart. So a very important metric to keep in mind. I'll give you two extreme numbers. That particular customer that we're looking at with an AOV, an average order value of 2,200, their pre-product page effectiveness rate was 1.7. After we got done with them, I think they were close to the 4.5% because we've done a lot more testing. Now so this is one extreme example where the AOV is really high. On the other end, we've had a customer with a $25 average order value, and their effectiveness rate was close to the 20%. So that's kind of the range that you want to play with. So some further analysis, Ayat?
So, just so we can kind of go back and look at the control, the CTA below the fold really does reduce the buyer momentum. And if you recall from a previous webinar, if you listened to our webinars before, we've talked about buyer momentum. And it's, once the customer is there, you want to make sure that you continue giving them that trail, that scent that's going to persuade them through the conversion funnel. And having the add to cart below the fold is reducing that. And the page isn't catering to that impulsive persona type. The impulsive persona, which we will go through that term and the definition of that, the one that has the credit card in hand, ready to make that purchase, well, you know what? If they don't see everything readily available in close proximity to each other, they're going to click out. Making sure that there's unnecessary elements. If you have a description that shouldn't be there, or if you have a SKU number that shouldn't be there, removing those elements sometimes does help. You can add more things in that area, compact it with the information that's actually going to persuade and move the customer forward. So those are things that you really do need to keep in mind.
And this is the type of analysis, and we're summarizing it over here because we usually spend quite a bit of time analyzing the page, assessing the different elements, and determining what are the conversion framework elements that are at play, and what would make us make a particular change, skip another, prioritize another change.
So for variation 1, to increase buyer momentum, placing the CTAs in a visible location, addressing the impulsive persona by presenting them with all the product options immediately, opening up the space, removing unnecessary elements, and making the page just more user-friendly. Anything that's impeding the conversion process should not be there.
And variation 2, Ayat?
Variation 2, again, it was just a matter of increasing the buyer momentum by placing CTA. One thing I do want to keep in mind, we did talk about chat at the beginning of our conversation. The thing is with this customer, a lot of times, and I've had this experience with many of our different clients, is that they say, oh, well, chat is so important, it's going to move us forward, da-da-da. Well, with this particular client, they saw a reduction in the number of customers that were using the chat feature. They were just moving forward with the purchase process, not necessarily having to use the chat. So, although chat is important, you don't want to make sure that that's the basis. Some people don't necessarily need it. If they're an impulsive shopper, they're just going to move forward without the chat.
And I consider myself to be very impulsive, and I hate the chat feature. I think I've only had to use it a couple of times. Even sometimes when I really need help, maybe I just don't like that human interaction on the web. I like to do it on my own. So give me the information, let me convert, let me make the decision. I don't need to have a chatting with a person. So not only did this particular case study increase revenue, but he was able to reduce costs by having less of his visitors ask for chat, less staff.
So going back to the impulsive persona, this is the shopper that many website owners, many of our own clients love, because this is the one that has a credit card in hand. They may or may have not premeditated the purchase, but the swiftness in which they make the decision, that is what makes them the impulsive shopper, and it actually puts 35% of shoppers in this category.
So 35% of your shoppers are the impulsive type. Now, if an impulsive type comes to your website and the action stage, remember we talked about the buying stages, the action stages, when somebody's ready to buy, they are wonderful because they convert, and they convert very quickly. Now, The only drawback is they might think about returning some of the items. But impulsive personas in the action stage are golden. With that, digging deeper, for this particular page, now we've had two different designs and they had different elements. The biggest impact was addressing the location of the CTA. If we're looking at an element by itself, just moving the add to cart above the fold. However, adding the product options, removing unnecessary elements which address FUDs and the impulsive persona, the other design 1, which addressed two elements of the conversion framework, resulted in 108% increase in conversion rates, two elements at play, bigger impact on the bottom line. Ayat, you can take it home from here. This is a summary of the key terms that we ran through. We're close to the 35 minutes. We still have some live optimization that we are going to be doing.
So just so that you can keep these marketing insights in mind, and also, again, the slides will be available to you later so you can look at them closely. A single element on a page may require more than one conversion framework element in order to fully optimize it. However, one conversion framework element remains dominant. The product page effectiveness rate, or PPER, is the percentage of visitors who click on add to cart from the product page. When a visitor has made their way to the product page, you have a greater opportunity for persuasion. So at this point, the site visitor is more invested in the purchase process and you're able to deliver more information as compared to other pages. And again, going back to the impulsive persona, there's a shopper that has a credit card in hand. They may or may not have premeditated the purchase. However, the swiftness in which they make the decision puts 35% of shoppers in this category.
Very good. We still have a couple of more slides for you. If you enjoy this webinar, if you find it useful, please go ahead and share it with a friend, a colleague. If you want to find out more information, our book is available on Amazon. Conversion Optimization, The Art and Science of Converting Prospects into Customers. If you like the book, please leave us leave feedback on Amazon. We love to see the feedback from our readers. Now, if you are looking for something more in terms of optimizing your website, we have a couple of options that we're introducing this year. We have a conversion rate audit, which is a one-time, we look at your website, you sit with one of our conversion optimization specialists. He does about 45 minutes walkthrough after he analyzes the data. We spend about 2 weeks analyzing, and then we give you the summary, 45 minutes in order for you to implement actionable items on your website. If you're looking for something larger, we have quite a bit of testing that we're going to be doing this year. We're looking at different testing for subscription type websites, for e-commerce type websites, more research that we're going to be conducting. We're looking at mobile also this site. So visit our website, click on the contact us today, fill the contact form. Again, the slides are going to be available via SlideShare. Our YouTube channel will have the video. If you have any comments, any feedback, we would love to hear from you. If you have any suggestions on topics that you want us to do, we have, if we want to do a webinar every day, I think it will take us about 3 to 4 years to cover all the different case studies that we have. So if there's a particular topic that you care for, you want to hear about, please share it with us. With that, we're going to jump into the live optimization.